All righty. So welcome to Redox Nurse Talk. I'm Doria Stewart, registered nurse here in Atlanta, Georgia, and my co-host is Cindy Reed, and registered nurse in Nashville, Tennessee. And we are independent associates with a global research and cellular health company called ASEA. Our company owns the space of having the only one cell signaling technology in the world, and presently we're in 34 countries. Our mission is to educate the public at large on the benefits of this breakthrough and how it can help you. It'll also help you make an informed decision for your overall health and resilience. What you're about to hear is not intended to treat, diagnose, or cure any medical health condition. Each week, we have the honor to host a guest that has been impacted by this cellular health technology. And tonight we have Dr. Mark DeBrincat. Cindy will be conducting the interview, so you'll be able to put your questions in the chat. And as time allows, he will answer those for you at the end. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Cindy.
Okay, I will let you take over the admissions. They're still coming in. Welcome, everyone. And like Doria said, we're here to share this technology. We have an awesome guest tonight. Doria, did you just state our disclaimer? I was not really paying attention. Sorry.
I did.
I was reading. So we have Dr. Mark DeBrincat on tonight, and we're very honored to have him. We've actually shown some of his videos on some of our previous Zooms, Nurse Talks, so you may recognize his face. But I'm going to go through his bio. Then we're going to let him share his story. Feel free to put questions in the chat, and if Dr. Mark has time, he will answer those. He is on a little bit of a time schedule tonight, so we will have to end a little early, so we'll get this rolling. So we're going to skip the video that we're usually do initially. So Dr. Mark DeBrincat is known as the Good News Doctor. He's based in the vibrant city of Naples, Florida. And as a passionate advocate for holistic healing and brain health breakthroughs, he's dedicated his career to helping individuals restore their optimum health and become empowered about their health, their well-being. Family has always been at the core of his values, and it's one of the driving forces behind his mission to promote health and longevity. When he's not in the clinic, you might find him biking, swimming, boating, or dancing to live music. Dr. Mark, you need to come to Nashville, which helps him maintain the work-life balance that he strongly believes in. His journey into natural health began as a chiropractor, and this path led him to found the Good News Doctor, which in his clinic, they specialize in global health solutions to optimize performance, health, and well-being. They utilize cutting-edge therapies, including cell performance, PEMF, which is pulse electromagnetic field therapy, neurofeedback, biofeedback, vascular, nutritional, and essential oil therapies. Just amazing the things that he does. And I love the fact that he incorporates so many modalities into his practice. But Dr. Mark, and I've not heard all of your story, and looking at your bio, I was very impressed. So I'm just going to let you take it and just tell us what was going on in your life and how you were introduced to this technology.
Well, thank you, Cindy and Doria, for inviting me on. It's an honor to be here and to be able to share with all of these new guests that I've never met before. So, as we said, I'm the Good News Doctor. And I guess the reason of that is after so many years, my patients kept telling me that I was the only doctor that ever gave them good news on like what they could do to get better and all the things that they do have to look forward with. And so it ended up just sticking and becoming my brand. And so I've always specialized in brain and spinal traumas throughout my career. I've been always very passionate about brain health. And unfortunately, my wife and I were in a head-on collision, and I had to become my own best patient. And so it was pretty severe. I was told that I wasn't going to walk again, and my wife had shattered her neck. Let me go ahead and let me just share a slide real quick for everybody, give you a visual. So I had this was the accident, and of course I had x-rays that I was broken in half front and back. I ripped all the muscles off my pelvis, I lost a third of my intestines, and I shredded my spine in 11 areas. And so I was a hot mess for a long time. My wife broke her neck and had to have those vertebrae replaced. 95% of the people with her injuries are killed immediately, and the rest are usually paralyzed. So
Mm.
I fought really hard. It took me 17 years to get all my abilities back, and I fought really hard for a lot of years. And I felt like I was getting 2 steps forward and then 1 step back, and then 1 step forward and 12 steps back. And it was a lot of ups and downs. I was very stubborn, so I refused to take any medication or any even a Tylenol for the first 12 years. I had to know where my body was and what it was doing and how it was responding to everything I was trying to find a way to make the next version of my cells better than the current version of my cells. And so eventually, I did find one breakthrough and then another breakthrough. And the year I actually broke free of my permanent wheelchair and all the meds that they had me on for the last 4 years of all of that, I ended up having 7 back surgeries. They put a computer in my spine so I just wouldn't feel anything from my chest down anymore, trying to just make me more comfortable. And I'm happy to say that it was 10 years ago that I finally had enough breakthroughs in a row to break free of the wheelchair and all those meds. And in that same year that I was out of my chair is when I was introduced to ASEA. And so in the beginning, I was just so happy to be out of my chair, and I was um, I was fascinated with ASEA. Sherry and Jack Clark are the people that brought me in, and she was a patient of mine. She came in and she's laying on the table. We're talking about all the different technologies I had in my office, and she's familiar with this one, and I'm familiar with that. I was familiar with things that she was talking about, and we were just like two peas in a pod. We, come from the exact same mindset. And then she asked me if I knew about redox signaling molecules, and I'm like, well, I mean, I guess I know what they are in the body, but like I never hear people talking about them. What do you mean? And so she began to tell me about it. And, she was just happy that I was a doctor who was open-minded to listen to, her explain this, because it was the same year that they got into it. And they were just so blown away with Jack's health that, they couldn't stop talking about it. So I specialize in brain and spinal trauma, as I mentioned. And so I'm all about researching. I've been doing research for many years on lots of different technologies and products to see the impact that it actually has on the brain. And with the therapies we do in that brain space, it's very taxing on our brain. So if you can imagine you've never worked out before, and then you go to the gym and some trainer has you lifting weights for 8 hours, you'd be all washed up. You wouldn't be able to handle that. Your body's not that resilient to take on that. So we kind of do the same thing with the brain and expect people to be in this like athlete superstar shape. And we put them into this training and they start exercising their brain just like they'd be working out muscles, and it only takes about 20 to 30 minutes and they just hit a wall. And so what's physiologically happening in the brain is when you're exercising it, you're creating a whole lot more oxidative stress than it already makes. And so as we know, an oxidative stress builds and builds, and we can't put the fire out. That gene turns off from my fire extinguisher, and I get the different gene that kicks on, and inflammation comes in. So when that happens, patients will start to feel pressure in their head, like their face is getting flush. They'll feel pressure all around. And if they don't stop training right then and there, they're going to get a headache. And sometimes that would last all day. Now, as long as they're training up until that point, they're literally growing brain tissue. And we're seeing people get abilities back. And it's so exciting. There's no greater gift you can give somebody than to have them think that they're going to be like this for the rest of their life. And then all of a sudden they get abilities back. It's so amazing. And going through it myself, it's been 10 years now that I haven't had to use my computer, I haven't had to use a cane or a wheelchair, and I haven't had to take any medications again. And it's literally the redox that keeps me going. Now, with the patients, 9 years ago, when we first found this phenomenon, it was like a miracle. We've been trying so many ways to find ways to hack the brain and to be able to push that envelope further than 30 minutes. Because that's the key. When you're doing the training, you're growing brain tissue. And if I grow enough, I'll start to be able to do things I haven't been able to do. And so it's always this challenge. So for the year and a half before I found ASEA, we learned different hacks, things like putting your body into ketosis and how all of a sudden you could just keep burning and burning and going further before you hit that wall. We'd make it an hour, hour and a half sometimes. But the interesting thing is the SIA had the ability to immediately neutralize any oxidative stress that was building as long as you kept doing a shot every hour or two. I have patients literally all around the world that train 4 hours a day, 30 days in a row. And that's just unheard of. Nobody believes me. And I've been looking over my shoulder like, how come everybody in this community hasn't figured it out yet that this is like the miracle for neurofeedback? I mean, this is allowing us to just have wings to keep flying and never hit a wall. And I don't care if you're 89 years old or if you're a 3 year old, we can see amazing changes. And it's the redox that's been doing it. So for 7 years, I've just been sharing this product with people. I never even looked at the opportunity of ASEA. I didn't know anything about the comp plan, but we love the product. And all around the globe, we've been sharing and helping so many people find their miracle breakthroughs in sometimes no time at all. And so it was amazing. Now, 2 years ago, I moved from Colorado and sold my practice, and I moved down to Florida. And I started doing these weekly calls where I teach on the human body and what parts they are and how the body heals itself and how redox plays a crucial role in that. So I've literally done in the last 2.5 years thousands of hours of research on redox like I've never done before. I was always just focusing on redox is the greatest brain supplement in the world. And I never really was thinking too far beyond that. But literally every week when I'm doing this research, I have aha moments like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it does that too. This is so awesome how our body is made and how exciting it is. And when it comes down to true health, really, we're just talking about a dance of electrons down at the cellular level. And when you have potential, you're healthy, period. And if you don't have that potential, you're going to get sick. There's just no exception to the rule. And so I look at ASEA like this is our alpha supplement. This is a supplement that trumps any other supplement that I take. Now, I've been raised by very holistic parents. I was 7 years old and not allowed to eat enriched bread and sugar or sodas. And I felt so deprived back as a child because all my friends got to eat junk food and I never was allowed to. But looking back, you know what? I never got sick. I've always healed healthy, healed quickly. I've never had to be on medications for health issues. It's like, there was something to treating my body right and eating that way and doing all of those things. So I was raised taking food supplements, whole food supplements. Like this is my life insurance here. And this is what my body needs to make every single cell in its body today. It needs proteins, vitamins, and minerals. And I'm going to take the best of the best right now. And now the rest of the day, it's just up to me to eat clean and avoid toxins at all costs. And so, but if anybody were to ask me out of those 30 or 40 vitamins that I take every day, like, which one's your favorite? What one's the most important? I honestly, for decades, I haven't been able to give anybody an answer. They're all equally important. That's why they made it into my hand because they all have such intrinsic value for my life. This is life insurance to me. It's not an option. And no matter how broke I've been when I went through all of our savings trying to get better, I could never stop taking the vitamins because that's our lifeline. But it wasn't until probably just a couple years ago that this whole redox thing and the power of what we really have here that people try it and they don't get it. Some people come off of it and some people just don't take enough. They don't realize they had it right there in their hands and they were so close to a breakthrough and they just gave up too fast. It reminds me of stories of out west here in the United States in the gold mine area. There was companies that spent a fortune digging and digging and mining trying to find gold, and one company was just so fed up The guy threw his axe down and says, "I'm done." And he walks out, says, "I'm never doing this again." And he left. He left all his equipment and everything. Well, some stranger walks by and goes, "Oh, look, somebody left a pickaxe." And they grabbed it and they hit the wall a couple times and literally found the largest gold reserve ever found in our country. And he was somebody that didn't even pay for the equipment. He just found it and came in at the bottom of the ninth. We have some people that are so desperate to hang on with their life, and they come in and they find to see it. And right away, they're finding breakthrough after breakthrough because their body's so desperate for it. It seems like the sicker and the more issues you have, the faster it's going to work for you because your body just doesn't have any potential left. And so when we talk about potential, let me go ahead and share my screen again and give you a visual to what I say. It's all about life is just nothing more than a dance of energy at that cellular level. And we communicate through chemicals and through electricity. And that's the language of our cells. We think of redox molecules, they're nothing more than the letters that make up the alphabet. So our neurology can make up different components, different molecules to do different functions in our body, and so that they can all communicate. It's all about a dance at the potential of the cell. Now, if you're inside that cell yelling for help and a car is driving by, which one do you think is the one that they think somebody's in there yelling? And which one do you think is nobody's home? The problem is when you're sick, you've stripping that charge off your cells, every cell of your body. It's not just the organ or the tissue that's related to your condition. It's like the tide. It's been sucking out the redox and you're at a very low level. You just can't produce what we used to. Aging plays a role in that, but so does lifestyle and so does illness. It's just a thief that robbed your potential from you. So the fact that we can take product that can actually give us that potential back and restore it so quickly, it truly is a gift. I mean, again, I know so much about this, 9 years of studying it and using it and having thousands of interactions with patients, but I still get in awe all the time because it's something that, like I've heard so many other people before me say, that it's native to our body, so it's impossible for it not to work. That's something that I could never really say about any other supplement or technology or product. We're all bioelectrical beings, yes, but we all have so many different things and react and respond differently depending on our resilience and our redox. And so to think that we're all the same, it's foolish to think that we all would have the exact same response to something, unless it's that something that every cell in our body makes to begin the healing process within us, to go as far upstream as you could ever go. So where does the body begin to heal this? It's at this molecular level inside the cell. It's making these molecules to defend itself, to protect itself, and to heal itself, and to communicate to all the other cells nearby. And that is precious. And we want to be able to adapt and have resilience and overcome any of the little conditions or any of these big conditions that we might be dealing with. It's something magical when you can give somebody an ounce of inspiration and watch them turn around and give you a gallon of perspiration. It's a great exchange, but it's a fair exchange because so many people have just lost their hope and they've lost the will to think that they're ever going to change and that it'll ever get better. And they have this victim mentality rather than a victory mentality. And we all can claim victory when we take care of ourselves and let the body do what it's supposed to do to heal it. Our energetic field is sending 400 million bits of data to our brain every second to give the overall view of what's going on with Mark right now. And my brain interprets that 400 million messages, and it turns around and it creates 65 quadrillion chemical reactions the very next second in response to your demand and what you're saying that you need. Now, the intelligence that does that, are you kidding me? It didn't abandon you when you were born. Two cells came together and it created you, an organism, 100 trillion cells. It didn't abandon you and leave you victim. It's dependent on how we treat ourselves and the resources we give it for its ability to overcome things and adapt. But it doesn't judge you and just not determined to heal you today because you're being abusive to me. It never thinks that way. It's just going to do everything that it can with whatever it's got, with no judgment. And so these molecules, when you put them in your mouth and hold them there for 15 to 30 seconds, they've already been assigned to the exact tissues that they're supposed to be at immediately. They're not being told, oh, what are you doing here? We need to break you down and digest you and assimilate you, and we have to do things. It's not saying, who are you? What are you doing here? It's saying, oh my gosh, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be over here, here, and here, most likely up in the brain, because our brain's 2 million times more important than any other cell in our body. And that's where the majority of all of our oxidative stress and redox is made, because we make mitochondria, and the mitochondria are making energy and redox. Well, your brain cells have like 2.5 million mitochondria per cell versus just a few hundred in most of the other tissues in your body. So clearly they're more complicated. They make a lot more energy, make a lot more waste, metabolic waste, that we need to create redox to be able to neutralize and to keep us whole. So when we're looking at ways to find a breakthrough and give people their life and give people their abilities back, you don't need to be a doctor. You don't even have to tell the ASEA where to go. It's going to know exactly what to do. The problem is we just don't take enough. I've had pretty much every patient, I recommend 8 ounces a day for the last 9 years, because that's what the studies were done. And the gene studies show that 8 ounces a day has the most impact on your genetic behavior. Now, we talk about genes, there's only 4 genes that you have that are fixed, which means you're not going to change your eye color, but every other gene in your body is expressive. And so why not put the molecules in that are transcribing that DNA, maybe 3 billion times, to find the cleanest version of it, to make it into the new stem cell that's going to carry on the torch from that last cell? That's kind of important. And when we don't have that redox potential, we're not doing our job very well. I could sit here and talk for 100 hours on how amazing our body is and how awesome we create healing within our body. When we talk about structure, function, and mechanism of function in the cells, that is always compliant, because we're not talking conditions, we're just talking structure, function. And so we don't need to say the symptoms that arise in between being vibrantly healthy and being sick. It doesn't matter what the symptom is, all the cells are suffering. And by taking ASEA, you're slowly rising the tide in every cell of your body to have more resources, to take better care of itself, to be able to communicate and function better. There's really nothing else you could ever take that would be more important than that. That's why I call this my alpha product. Let me share one of my great visuals of what is ASEA. Go ahead and play that here. And it should be about now. Here we go. All right, so ASEA, it is not saline. It starts as sodium chloride in water, and they have 7 technologies or 7 patents and over 1,000 trade secrets on how to take those 2 substances and break it down into 4 individual molecules that just so happen to be the same ones that our little mitochondria in our cells are making. Now, the difference is the ones that your body makes, they're gone instantly. You're making as much as you can make because you need more, but you're using it instantly. So it's as if you have only enough money to pay your bills at the end of every month to the penny. And so you have to live this way. Now, if all of a sudden you won the lottery, you got millions of dollars that just came in. Are you going to have to worry about paying your bills? No, you're going to do upgrades. You might even get a new house, but you're going to first of all upgrade everything that you have. That's what it's like when you start drinking this amazing molecules. It's giving you the finances and the funding to go ahead and repair things that you haven't been able to repair because you just didn't have anything left over. You've never had enough of those resources. So that's ASEA. The fact that we can take these molecules and stabilize them where the positive and positive and negative are not neutralizing each other in that bottle, that's physiologically impossible. That's like me saying we're going to put hot water and cold water into my glass, and they're going to stay separate. If I drink it from this side, it'll be hot, but if I turn my glass around, it'll be cold from the other side. You look at me like I've lost my mind. That's physiologically impossible, but that's what this is. They've been able to take them spinning at the frequency that they normally spin at in our bodies, break them apart into their individual ingredients, and then spin them up a hill 10 times bigger than the one they just came down. And there's something miraculous about the RPMs that they're spinning at up there that allows them to stay volatile, but yet stable, which means they're just looking for a place to rest. They're looking for something organic to touch so it can fill in that gap and do what it's supposed to do and then relax. And so it's just an exchange of electrons so everything can rest. And until then, for 2 years, these molecules will stay stable in that body, in that bottle. And so there is nothing else like this. This is a life-enhancing molecule, whether you're 1 hour old or whether you're 100 years old. This is what life is directing and driving the function of literally every cell in your body. And so this is my alpha supplement, and I've helped a lot of people find their breakthroughs through using this. And quite frankly, if they're not willing to use this, they don't really want to get better that fast. You want to take the long road. I've taken the long road, and believe me, it's exhausting and it's financially draining. It's emotionally draining. It's taxing on your family to have people dress you and pick you up and move you and drive you everywhere and do all these things. That's not enjoyable. They would much rather have dad back that can go play hockey and ski and mountain bike and dirt bike and golf and do all the fun things that everybody said I'd never do again. And I just had to serve them wrong or prove them wrong, I guess, and just never give up to knowing that the body can heal itself. There's nothing that we can do that will heal us. Okay. There's nothing that you could take from the outside that heals us. It's only your body that does the healing. It's the intelligence that's working in your body. When I used to call it innate intelligence all the time, all I was really saying was redox reactions. I mean, that's chiropractors call it innate. It's like above, down, inside out. Everything starts in the brain, comes through the spine, and then out through the nerves to every tissue and every cell in your body. They're all sending information to my brain, and every cell is getting information back from my brain. And that's life force. That's what innate is. I never thought of thinking what is it besides the word innate? It's an idea, a message starts here and it sends to my big toe because I thought, hey, I should lift my big toe. Well, that signal has to start in one place and then travel through my nervous system at about 275 miles an hour to my big toe so that I can actually do what I just said I was going to do. That intelligence is so amazing and it's so fast acting. And that's the only intelligence that will ever heal anything in you. Now, medications can save our lives. Surgeries can save our lives. They can manage our vital signs, which, that's the main reason we take redox molecules is to keep our vital signs tight. If most people are using all their resources of redox just to find homeostasis again, they drink a soda, which is 10,000 times more acidic than their blood goes into shock because if it drops 1/10 of a point, you're dead. And immediately you have to start stripping calcium from bones, making hormones, doing all these things to buffer that back. Those are all redox reactions. So you're going to use all your redox because you make poor diet choices and have nothing left over so you can actually sleep well tonight or heal. 75% of all the new cells are going to lay down when you're in deep sleep for an hour. And if you don't get good sleep, guess what? You're not making up for it on the weekend. You're damaging your neurology. And so do things like eat plants and vegetables during the day. I made some extra resources versus those fried onion rings. I just lost resources. And then coming home, I think of grateful things while I'm in the car and people that I want to call and say thank you to for things that they're doing in my life. I'm gaining redox in my body by thinking cheerful thoughts. The person next to me has road rage and he's screaming and yelling at the guy in the front of him in traffic. And he's just exhausting any last redox he's got. And by the time he gets home, there's nothing left for sleeping and healing, and they're in a different situation. So, yeah, lifestyle plays a role in how much resilience we're going to use. I've learned to not waste my stress on things that I don't have all the facts for. I find myself when I was younger reacting to bad news and, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happens. And then I take the worst case scenario and run with it and create all sorts of stress in my body, which I need redox to neutralize, versus saying, that's interesting. Let me get all the facts before I give you an opinion on that. And I don't let anything hijack my brain. And it saves me so much more resources so I can actually heal tonight and get a good night's sleep and have some extra reserve left over. Of course, always doing a shot of redox before I go to bed just to have that extra healing power within when I'm sleeping. I don't think it ever wakes anybody up. So some people are afraid to do that because it might wake them up. So that hasn't been my experience, but I could just sit here and just keep talking. So let me stop and let you actually ask a question to guide the direction of my talk.
Mark, I was just really impressed by, I had not heard your story, but looking at that picture, that was just a miracle that you and your wife walked away with that, with your life still. Granted, you were a little banged up, so to speak, but you had a
Sure.
miraculous recovery. And you're so passionate about what you do, not just redox, but just the natural healing and alternatives as well. And I wish all doctors could be like that, and we would be a lot healthier. Everybody would be a lot healthier. Couple of quick things. And again, anyone can put their questions in the chat. So you've done some work with brain mapping. Can you tell us about some results, maybe just, without disclosing any patients or people's names, but just some results that you've noticed with that?
Well, I can do one better. Let me share my screen again. A little over a year ago, I did my own case studies
Okay.
with ASEA, and I had 55 people volunteer to be a part of the study. And what that entailed is getting a full QEEG brain map and then taking 8 ounces a day for 90 days. And then they get a final brain map at the end. So I can see how much new tissue grew, how much changes in the brain. I can dissect that data 1,000 different ways and come up with all sorts of exciting new information. And so what we found was very phenomenal. Now, none of these patients were allowed to start taking any new supplements that they weren't already on. They weren't allowed to do any therapies that they weren't already doing daily without permission. And so I didn't want it to be a mixed study where, oh yeah, they were taking ASEA, but oh my gosh, they just started doing laser therapy too, and they did some neurofeedback and they did this and that. I mean, anything that would impact the brain, they weren't allowed to do additionally if it wasn't already in their daily routine. And so what we found was pretty exciting. The ability for the change in neurology at night, for their ability to sleep and turn it on and off, and all of the resting stages, on average, with all 55 people, was 52% change to the positive. Now, that's powerful, very powerful, because we see 5% change, we jump up and down and get excited. And so 25 or 10 to 25% change is what happens after about 20 hours of neurofeedback. To get these high numbers, you're talking 40 hours to 60 hours of neurofeedback. And some people, 73%, as you see. When you look at these gauges, this is how much new tissue growth happened out of the 100% of the change. So about 60% new tissue growth, 40% just reorganizing things, cleaning things up. But for the most part, people would have more reorganizing, a little less new tissue growth. But these numbers were just phenomenal. I was very excited to see what we saw through that process. And as I said, the average was 52%. And then during the day, it was 51%. So it really helps people just as much day and night. This is about almost 50-50 of new tissue growth. So we know there's studies with ASEA that it will create neogenesis of new vessels and new tissue. And so this is showing me that just the ASEA alone is also helping a lot of neuroplasticity. Here's somebody that had more than reorganizing. Again, very impressive. some of these numbers to see. I've done probably 30,000 brain maps, and I've only probably seen a dozen to maybe 2 dozen maps, not even people, ever hit 70%. So the fact that we've seen quite a bit of that through this study was pretty exciting. And so when we look at interconnectivity between right and left brain, we have 32 possible connections here. The top row has none. So this person you would look at and say, oh, they're an analytical person. They're like an engineer or they're an artist. They're very creative. So they can still use both sides of the brain, but one side's dominant all the time and they're never both. So they tend to have a very strong personality either way. So left side of the brain's like 2 + 2 is 4, and the right side says, no, 4 is the sum of two parts of two. So as long as we agreed, we just said the same thing, they would connect right through the midline and turn green like you see down here. So the glowing blue, it's just right on the edge of green. It's considered green as well. So they literally had no connections all the way to 27 out of 32 connections. So this again was amazing. 44% increase across the board for everybody in making the right and left brain connect. And this allows you to actually get into your deep in your REM sleep, takes away the anxiety and the ruminating and all sorts of other things that happen at night through that process. And then we have concussion index. There was people that have had concussions that came into the study. And here, anything outside the gray is considered a concussion. And so they were already a grade 3, almost a grade 4 concussion at the beginning of the study. And doing no therapy, let me tell you, just taking ASEA 8 ounces a day brought it down to the red lines that you see here. So anything inside the gray is considered normal. But this also tells me not only if it's out of the gray, you can't play. So all the professional sports teams use this to gauge whether their athlete can be on the field, as well as all branches of the military, whether you can be in service or not. If you have a concussion, you're benched, you're done. And so their goal is to get back on the field if they're an athlete because they want to get paid, right? And so this could be 12 weeks of aggressive therapies. It could be just taking ASEA and the body completely healed all sides of anxiety, language issues, mood issues. It'll tell you what networks were being affected by the brain. And so we can see trauma, the colors of the brain kind of relate to what you guys know as ASEA, meaning the reds are too fast. It's too much information. It's bombarding those nerve fibers, and that causes more is not better. Okay, it's just too much. You can't comprehend it all. And then the blue is when it slows down. It's degenerating. It's delayed. There's damage in there. The blue is always more serious because we don't know if we can wake up the blue, but we can always calm down the reds and the yellows. So from an ASEA standpoint, from a redox in the brain standpoint, your blue areas are too much oxidative stress causing damage. And the reds and the yellows is inflammation. Okay, that's as a response to when it's a head trauma, the injury would have been hit where the red is. The brain bounced off the other side of the skull inside, and then it came back to the point of impact at 2 different speeds. And that causes a separation and damage of those tissue. So here's an exciting image. This is an image of taking all 55 people that were in the study and putting them into one image saying, this is the average brain that came in. These are the things that everybody in the study had in common. Okay. And so we can see mostly yellow, which means 2 deviations above a normal healthy brain. So more people are overactive brains on general. And then after, almost all green again. So across the board through all of there. So that was very powerful that everybody had this same issue, and then it was resolved on pretty much everybody in the study as well. So incredible changes that we can see. And this is just a glimpse of all the data that we have throughout that study. I don't need to go into all the other explanations of what different aspects of the study are. I just wanted to, wet your whistle a little bit to see that it's real. Again, you don't have to be a neurofeedback doctor or even a doctor or a nurse. You could tell your best friend that you need to be drinking this if they have any brain issues, just knowing that this is usually the first thing that the doctors would put you on to start to help your brain heal itself and to get some potential so they can use whatever treatment we're going to recommend much better. And whether that's a medication or whether that's a technology or whether that's just the supplements that you're consuming, you want your cells to immediately identify, break them down and absorb them. It's not what you're eating, it's what you can absorb and assimilate that matters. And we all know that the digestive issue alone is all redox, the turning on of the making of your digestive enzymes to releasing them to stopping the release to the literal lining of your digestive system is like a glycocalyx of the shag carpet that has a redox molecules embedded into them that are the intelligence of knowing what gets in and what doesn't. Redox, you're going to learn more and more about redox, and it'll blow you away because you already thought you knew so much. So welcome to my world. Every week I find out new things that I didn't know, and I know enough to be dangerous.
That's amazing, Dr. Mark. One quick thing, I'm going to let Doria do her questions because I know we're time limited here. So when you suggest this to
Mhm.
your patients, are they all willing to try it? Do you find they are? I mean, because obviously you can explain it from the basic needs.
I would like to say yes, everybody does it, but no, it's not because they don't want to do it, because obviously I have a pretty decent ability to communicate what it is and find out why, what your hot button is to know why you need this. I can relate it to your issues. Um, but besides that, most of the people either stopped doing it or never did in the beginning because they just couldn't afford it. And so that's a real situation, especially when they're coming in and spending a lot of money for other therapies and things. And they might be a little intimidated thinking, oh, do I have to stay on this? And I'm like, well, believe me, you will stay on this. You'll give up everything else in your life to stay on this if that's what it takes, because you just don't appreciate the life it's giving you right now. You wouldn't live 3 minutes without it. And so I think it's financially is one that has rubbed a lot of people. Now, like I mentioned, for all these years, I've been putting people on double dose with the gel. So with this new bundle, they've just saved them like $135 a month of what they used to be paying. And so they're so excited about that. Now it's actually more affordable for so many people that thought they couldn't afford it. They can actually afford it now. And that was some of the greatest news we received all year is when they announced that bundle for everybody and the more concentrated molecules.
It is. What I tell people when they talk about the cost, I have to ask them, well, what is it costing you with what you're doing now? Now, most people aren't doing the alternative treatments that you offer. And then I ask them, is what you're taking working, or is what they're doing working for you? And well, yeah, and they're going to be on their medicine all their life, but it has side effects. The redox doesn't. Okay, Joy, I'm
That's
going to turn
right.
it over to you and let you answer your questions. Go ahead and put questions in the chat if we only have a few
Yeah, now
minutes
we gotta
left for
stop.
Dr. Mark.
So I just have one for you, Dr. Mark. So my son had a neurobiological dysfunction. He was on the spectrum. What have you seen in this population using redox and the brain mapping that you're doing?
I couldn't say enough about that. I've been teaching across the country in big platforms on spectrum disorders and how families deal with that and all the things we can do neurologically to help and lifestyle stuff. So there's so much to say in that. I guarantee you most all of them are super deficient in redox for one of many reasons. I don't need to get into all of that. Electronics, being put, iPads in their lap all day long and they're just glued to it. And so, you know, food colorings, dyes, and things like that. So there's a lot of little things that parents are just naive and they might not know. I will say that, 20 years ago, teaching on this stuff, the audience was all women. And nowadays it's about 50-50 men and women. So like the husband and wife are showing up to learn how to better take care of their children. And what can we do to all be on the same page? I've seen that more in the last, 6-7 years than I've seen in 30 years. And so I will say that there's a lot more technologies and products like Redox that's available that can really make such a huge impact. And from being disabled myself and getting abilities back slowly, let me tell you, any little change in behaviors and attitudes and abilities, especially being more reliant. And I've had multiple children that never spoke, that had all these different issues that couldn't do. And now some of them are living on their own, which they were told they'd never have a chance of life without adult supervision. And so there's always hope, and there's always the ability to allow your body to express itself a little bit better. It's just, how bad do you want that? And how disciplined are you willing to be? And in the beginning, it's going to be a little bit more challenging because you have to put up with the defiant behaviors of trying to change the way that you're doing things. And a lot of the times, the kids are getting away with the things that are hurting them the most because their parents are just exhausted. They can't fight anymore. They got to give in somewhere. And so, they do, but those things certainly do make a difference. Now, I've had many families that send pouches to school with their kids, and some of the private schools have to have the nurse has to administrate their ASEA at lunch every day. But they do that, and they've had to have a prescription from me to be able to let the child go to the nurse at lunch. But whatever it takes, because they'll do the gel on the bottom of their feet and their spine, and then drink it all up, and then hit the bus or get to school. But by lunchtime, they peter out. They've run out of gas, and so they need that second application. And you can't just sneak it in their bag and think that they're going to remember to do it. You got to make sure that somebody there is going to help them assist that. Oh, it's 12:30. This is your time, Johnny. Take your drink, and so they just keep them consistent, and then we see, you know, major changes in behavior, and not making other people so uncomfortable around them, and so forth. Um, I want to share. I want to share a story of a patient a few years back that first started getting in anesthesia. And he was in late 80s, I believe, or somewhere in his 80s, and he had been in a wheelchair for 30 years. And he had an inoperable tumor in his back. And so when we start using ASEA and he starts drinking it and using the gel, they were alarmed that something opened up in his back, and some discharge was coming out. Let's just call it that. It wasn't good. It wasn't clean looking, and it scared him. And so he said, just keep it clean. Don't let the wound get infected. But, just the body's doing something, let it do it. And so a few days go by, and then a little string pops out. And the wife was really concerned. So she grabs it and pulls it out, and like 6 inches long. And she thinks it's some surgical string from 30 years ago when her husband was put in the chair. So she's immediately upset. They take it to the doctor, and the doctor says, "Oh, I'm sorry, sweetheart. It's not a string." And he puts it in a petri dish, adds water to it, and unravels it. It was the sac that the tumor was in his low back. So once the body had extra helpers, more workers in place, it says, "You know what? We've been trying to get rid of this for a long time. I need top priority, get it out." And so it ejected it and then spit the sac out. And we've had more than one situation like this over the last 9 years where there's been babies and adults and people in between that have had certain types of objects or masses in their body for years. And they just, like I said earlier, if you have a lifestyle that you're using all your redox just to maintain your vital signs, you don't have leftover to get extra jobs done. And that's the importance of just take more. Take more till you find your breakthrough. You can't take too much. That's the beautiful thing. I've even heard one of the nurses say, I think on the Redox 5, that she would have patients do the first bottle for the first week, and then the bottle for the second week, she'd have them do 16 ounces a day for 2 days and then nothing for the next 5 days. And that would kind of jumpstart or force a breakthrough in their bodies. And so I've started to try that a few times. I don't have enough data to let you know how much I think that's a great strategy. But again, when people are ready to give up, I'm like, you know what, don't give up. Take twice as much. Just do it for the next few weeks. And then sure enough, they find their breakthrough that they've been looking for, and they're just so grateful.
Yes, exactly. Well, we do have a couple questions. I know you got about five more minutes or 6 more minutes with us. So
Yeah,
let's
just do
see.
some really quick, short answers. I'm sure he can do
Yeah,
that.
so Tammy's asking, have you seen firsthand results on TBI individuals? That would be what, traumatic brain injury, correct? TBI? Yes.
I locked up on you there for a minute. I lost you.
Okay. So did you hear the question?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Have you seen firsthand results on traumatic brain injury individuals?
Well, that's my entire practice for all these
Yeah.
decades. So yes, everybody.
Okay, and there's I don't want to list a diagnosis. I'm going to try to describe it. So this individual has like spasmodic, like movements in their neck, and sometimes it's involuntarily. It turns to left, to the right, and upward, and kind of gets stuck in, in that position. Have you helped anybody that's had that before?
So again, we don't need to go into the specifics of a condition. Anytime you have muscle issues, you have joint irregularities, you have arthritis, I mean, you can have all sorts of different conditions, and you're asking, does this work for that? Okay, it's a cell. Every cell in your body is constantly using this to defend itself. So the ones that are related to your condition, whatever the symptoms are, I guarantee you they need more redox. Is it the only thing they need? Maybe not. But when you do that first, it's like if I have a cell phone and I've been walking through the desert for 3 days and I finally come across somebody and they have a cell phone. If there is only one bar on that phone, how effective am I going to be able to call for help and anybody hear the exact location of where I'm at? It's still a phone. It still has a little bit of a signal, but it's not that effective. Now, if somebody handed me a fully charged phone with all the signals, I'm like, oh, thank you. Hey, this is exactly where I'm at. I'm at this coordinates. Can you send help right away? Great. I'll see you soon. So it doesn't matter what you have. The cells are in distress. They're not communicating well, and they're all guarding, and they're playing tug of war. There's an antagonist and a bully, and whatever situation in your body is not functioning right, give it the potential first, then they can start actually communicating and things can start to relax. Like, I'll let go if you let go, and the muscles are going to start talking to each other on the other sides. If it's in a fight or flight state, it's because it feels threatened. So if a nerve is being pinched, yes, things are going to torque this way and that way. And so you're going to find the position that has the least amount of pain. That's what your body's doing. And so don't force the pain, but help your body restore the function. So you might need intervention. Obviously, I'm a chiropractor. So the first thing I would think in what you were describing is we need an alignment. You need to take the pressure off the nerves and the muscles so that they can relax. Of course, the gel and the redox, I have to become, Dr. Healeth thyself every day as I'm putting all this stuff all over me too. And so you'll be surprised on how quickly you can adapt and how well your body can overcome things. It's not an all for everything. It is part of everything, but you still need building blocks. You still need different therapies and help to get you there. Redox is just going to help you get there faster and stay well. And if we're any practitioners on this call, and that isn't your goal for your practice and your patients to get them better faster and keep them well, well, then this might not be for you.
That's great. So last but least, you had a miraculous, I would say, transformation in your health. So what has this afforded you to do now as far as
Mm.
the business opportunity?
Oh, well, I think more of what it's done for me to give my life back that allows me to golf and ski and travel and do everything that I once used to be able to do that everybody told me I couldn't do. And of course, you know, I've been disabled and I've known what it's like to be making great money in a practice and then be upside down in the practice because you can't show up anymore and you still have overhead there. So that was devastating. Unfortunately, at the times that I've had my traumas that I was laid up, I had been recommending products to patients for years and built up a residual income. So it wasn't a game over for us. It was just I needed to focus the time into rehabbing. And so, I would say look at the opportunity of what it has to offer, find out the average amount of income that each level pays, and find out what kind of income you would need to not have to work anymore what you're currently doing, or to have the freedom that you wish you had. Then have the person that brought you in reverse engineer what that looks like. Well, you need to help this many people to make that a reality. So let's get started, however that looks. But that's all I can say on that. I do have to go. I have
I
another
know.
podcast starting. And
Yes, thank you so much for being with us
you're
tonight. We
welcome.
had, I think this is a record number of people that we've had on this evening. I think we had 69 folks on. So thank you again for your time. We really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
super.
Thank you, Dr. DeBrincat.
Anytime.
We'll send it to
Appreciate you
you.
and all that you're doing to help bring awareness to the communities out there. And so you guys are amazing. Thank you. Have a
Thank you
wonderful
too.
night. Thank you,
You too.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
He did not get a chance to answer those other questions. I'm not sure what he would recommend for the children, but I think most people, if he follows their plan, he does the 8 ounces, maybe 4 in the morning and 4 at night or 4 in the afternoon. So he does usually break those up. Some people will do it maybe every couple of hours. So it just really, you have to find what works for you best. So, and I don't know what were the other questions, Dory. I don't think we could answer them though.
Yeah, I think some people were just asking how much he was taking. I think he was taking 4 ounces twice a day, I guess. And I'm not sure in the initial when he first started with his when he first started it, but just the hearing, that's the thing to stay with this because so many people give up so soon and they expect to see results quickly, and this is not, you take if you have a headache, I guess I can say that, and you take something for it, you expect immediate results. And then that's just treating a symptom, but it's not getting to the root cause. So, if you are currently on the product, please stay on it, longer and take more so that you can see the results that you're looking for.
Joy, do you want to introduce our guest for next week?
Yeah, sure. So I let everybody know that we will have a recording. We upload it to our YouTube channel at Redox Nurse Talk. So that's where this will be, and that'll probably be up in the next hour. And then next week, let's see, where did I just put that? We have this is somebody that was recommended to us by Danielle Matthews. Her name is Leanne Kendall, and she just had a lot of inflammation in her body. So she'll be able to share with us her testimony on that. So that's who we have next week. And you want to close us out?
Yeah, everyone get back to the person that invited you to this Zoom and get your questions answered. You could come in as a customer, preferred customer, and pay the same thing we pay. Or if you're really looking for extra income or really want to grow a business with this, then we can put you in that box as well. So have a good night. And like I said, we'll be back here next Tuesday. We will upload this to YouTube channel and should be, like Doria said, an hour or two tonight. It will be ready. So I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording.